40 years ago, Pale Rider stunned the world with its dark Western tale and the legendary character of the Preacher of Vengeance. But behind the screen, the cast lived through tragedies no less dramatic than those in the film. Some died young from addiction, some passed away quietly from unknown accidents, while others became more successful than anyone could have imagined. Let us uncover their shocking fates in 2025. You won't believe what really happened. Clint Eastwood as Preacher. At 55, Clint Eastwood Jr. embodied the role of the Preacher in Pale Rider, 1985, serving both as director and leading actor. The image of a quiet, stoic minister hiding deadly power left a lasting mark on audiences, turning the film into an important milestone in his career. It was more than just a role. It was a continuation of the Western hero archetype, where Eastwood once again planted in viewers' minds the haunting themes of justice and retribution. Clint Eastwood was born on May 31, 1930, in San Francisco, California. Behind the fame and cinematic glory, however, lay a private life full of fractures. His marriages never ended peacefully. His first wife, Maggie Johnson, lived with him for more than 3 decades, enduring repeated betrayals and constant rumors of infidelity. After a bitter divorce, Eastwood entered into a second marriage with Dina Ruiz, but that union also collapsed in conflict, reflecting the instability of his inner life. The women who passed through his life not only carried their own scars, but left behind a tangled family of children and broken relationships. Eastwood fathered 8 children with different women, some only acknowledged after many years, ensuring that his family image was always clouded by controversy and hurt. In the eyes of audiences, he was a Hollywood legend, but behind the curtain, he was a man with a fractured heart and a family that never knew completeness. Today, Clint Eastwood is 95 years old. His career and personal life remain 2 opposing pieces, one side an immortal monument of Hollywood, the other a collection of irreparable memories. His net worth, estimated at $375 million, reflects his success but cannot erase the emotional scars he has carried for a lifetime. John Russell as Stockburn. At 64, John Lawrence Russell took on the role of Stockburn in Pale Rider, 1985, the ruthless, cold, and emotionless marshal who spread fear throughout the town. This villainous role became the final stamp on his film career, turning the tall man with the rugged face into an unforgettable figure in the Western genre. But few knew that behind the screen's glow, his real life was filled with darkness and tragedy. John Russell was born on January 3, 1921, in Los Angeles, California. Though once a real-life hero, honored for his brave service at Guadalcanal, his personal life never found peace. He married twice. The first marriage lasted more than 20 years before ending bitterly, leaving 3 children to grow up in the pain of a broken family. His second marriage lasted less than a year, collapsing under irreconcilable conflicts. After each divorce, Russell sank deeper into alcohol and cigarettes, habits that destroyed both his body and his spirit. He was arrested multiple times for drunk driving, becoming a shadow of himself, an on-screen villain and a man self-destructing in real life. These tragedies eroded his health, reducing him from a once strong man into a frail, broken figure. On January 19, 1991, John Russell drew his final breath in Los Angeles after suffering from emphysema, the cruel consequence of decades of heavy smoking. He died at the age of 70, leaving behind a modest estate of about $500,000, much of it consumed by medical bills and bitter divorces. He was laid to rest in Westwood Military Cemetery, among those who once bore the glory of battle. Richard Dysart as Coy LaHood. Richard Allen Dysart played Coy LaHood in Pale Rider, 1985, a ruthless mining baron, the embodiment of greed and destruction at the age of 56. The character was not only a villain, but also a symbol of the corruption of power, and Dysart's chillingly sharp performance made audiences both despise him and find him impossible to look away from. This role marked a late career peak, highlighting the depth of a performer long known for supporting parts, yet always able to leave his mark. Richard Dysart was born on March 30th, 1929, in Boston, Massachusetts. Outwardly, he appeared to be a calm, gentle artist, but his personal life was filled with tragedy. He married 3 times, yet his first 2 marriages ended in collapse. The women he once vowed to share his life with each eventually left, leaving behind voids nothing could fill. Loneliness became a shadow that followed him everywhere, for despite his reputation and career, he never found the sense of a complete family. The pain was even sharper because he had no biological children, only helping raise the stepchild of his 3rd wife, artist Catherine Jacobi. The repeated heartbreaks of failed marriages left him in a constant state of tension, a fragile soul haunted by feelings of abandonment. At the same time, Dysart wrestled with other inner battles. He openly opposed the Vietnam War, a bold and risky stance that led many producers and colleagues to distance themselves from him. What should have been a stable career was shaken by his commitment to peace. He lost more than a few roles simply because he dared to speak out. Behind the glory of winning an Emmy for L.A. Law, he endured years of professional pushback and deep despair. These struggles, compounded by habits of smoking and drinking, severely damaged his health. Cancer eventually took root as a looming death sentence, leaving him trapped in a long and painful fight with his own body. On April 5, 2015, Richard Dysart passed away at his home in Santa Monica, California, after a long and agonizing battle with cancer, at the age of 86. His net worth was estimated at around $5 million, a modest figure compared to a lifetime devoted to art. He died in the arms of his 3rd wife, leaving behind quiet footsteps on a path where art and private tragedy were forever intertwined. Michael Moriarty as Hull Barrett. At 44, Michael Moriarty appeared in Pale Rider, 1985, as Hull Barrett, a gentle yet steadfast miner who dared to stand against oppression to protect his town and reach for a glimmer of hope. The role became a turning point in his career, as audiences witnessed the striking contrast between his frail exterior and unyielding spirit, a character that mirrored much of Moriarty's own conflicted life. Michael Moriarty was born on April 5, 1941, in Detroit, Michigan. He grew up in a stable family. His father was a surgeon, his mother a quiet, supportive woman who longed for her son's success. Yet marriage became the deepest scar of his life. Moriarty entered matrimony 3 times in search of stability, but each union ended in failure. Alcohol and uncontrollable anger poisoned his relationships, driving away the women who had once loved him, leaving only bitterness behind. He lost not just marital happiness, but also custody of his children, who grew up distant from the father they once admired. Each divorce drove him further into isolation and self-doubt, carrying pain that no award could ever erase. His alcoholism devastated not only his family, but also his career. In the early 1990s, when he was at the height of fame playing Ben Stone in Law & Order, his drinking made him unstable. Colleagues recalled his slurred voice on set, his vacant eyes, and his frequent inability to remember lines. The situation reached its breaking point when he publicly attacked Attorney General Janet Reno, accusing her of trying to censor American television. He turned his fight against censorship into a personal crusade, and the result was his removal from the very show that had made his name. A talent who had won Tony, Emmy, and Golden Globe awards was now remembered more for erratic behavior than for brilliance, leaving audiences shocked and regretful. Today, Michael Moriarty is 84 years old. He has retreated from the glitter of the spotlight to live quietly in Canada, which he calls his political exile from the noise of his homeland. His net worth is only about $3 million, a modest sum compared to his once glorious career, drawn from acting, jazz music, and books he has written. Carrie Snodgress as Sarah Wheeler. At 40, Caroline Louise Carrie Snodgress appeared in Pale Rider, 1985, as Sarah Wheeler, a strong yet wounded woman living amid the harshness of mining life and yearning for freedom. Her role became the emotional soul of the film, where audiences could see both tenderness and fierce resilience. It was not just a cinematic character, but also a reflection of Snodgress's real-life tragedies, a star who once shone brightly but was slowly consumed by darkness. Carrie Snodgress was born on October 27, 1945, in Park Ridge, Illinois. Happiness seemed to smile on her when she met legendary musician Neil Young, but tragedy began there. In 1972, she gave birth to their son Zeke, a child born with cerebral palsy. The young mother carried the heavy responsibility of caring for him while being caught in the whirlwind of Neil Young's fame. Their relationship soon fractured, ending in bitterness, leaving Carrie with a broken heart and years of depression. With her family shattered, her son battling illness, and her own spirit torn between duty and despair, this became the beginning of a long chain of unending tragedies. In the years that followed, Carrie found no peace in love. She entered a relationship with musician Jack Nitzsche, but tragedy struck again. In a fit of jealousy and rage, Nitzsche broke into her home, beat her with a gun, and threatened to kill her. The incident shocked Hollywood, turning Carrie into a symbol of women's endurance, but also trapping her in lasting fear. Later marriages and romances were short-lived, leaving her alone in darkened rooms. By the time her career began to rebound, her health was no longer intact. Depression, bottles of alcohol, and liver disease slowly drained her strength. On stage, she still portrayed strong characters, but behind the curtain, she was a shattered woman. On April 1, 2004, Carrie Snodgress died in Los Angeles from heart failure while awaiting a liver transplant at the age of 58. At the time of her death, her net worth was only about $1 million, a modest sum compared to the brilliance she once had. Chris Penn as Josh LaHood. Christopher Shannon Penn played Josh LaHood, the hot-tempered, rebellious son of the mining baron in Pale Rider, 1985, at the age of 20. His portrayal revealed impulsiveness and aggression, but also showcased the natural talent of a young actor eager to prove himself. The role became a springboard for Penn to enter a string of popular 1980s films, where he was seen as one of Hollywood's most promising young talents. Chris Penn was born on October 10, 1965, in Los Angeles, California, into a family steeped in art. His father, Leo Penn, was a director. His mother, Eileen Ryan, was an actress. And his brother was Sean Penn, a name destined to become a film legend. But while Sean soared, Chris was tormented by comparison, insecurity, and jealousy. He turned to drugs and alcohol as a teenager, habits that quickly consumed his life. He was arrested multiple times for drunk driving and drug possession. These destructive choices derailed his career, shutting the door on golden opportunities. Soon, the name Chris Penn became associated more with scandal than talent, leaving behind a young man lost in the glare of fame. In the 1990s, Chris Penn briefly reclaimed the spotlight with his role as Nice Guy Eddie in Quentin Tarantino's Reservoir Dogs, 1992, but it was also his last major triumph. After that, he slipped into minor roles in lesser-known films, while his body was ravaged by heart disease and substance abuse. Family members recalled how he would drink all day, living alone in his Santa Monica apartment, estranged from loved ones. The weight of carrying the Penn name, overshadowed by an immensely successful brother, only deepened his despair. Behind the raspy voice and gritty acting, Chris was simply a weary soul, longing for recognition but drowning in addiction and illness. On January 24, 2006, Chris Penn was found dead at his Santa Monica home from an enlarged heart, the result of years of drug and alcohol abuse. He was only 40 years old. His net worth at the time was about $1.5 million, a small sum compared to the glory he once brushed against. His funeral was attended by some of Hollywood's biggest names, but all that remained was sorrow for a talent buried far too soon. Sidney Penny as Megan Wheeler. Sidney Penny was born on August 7, 1971, in Nashville, Tennessee. She played Megan Wheeler in Pale Rider, 1985, at just 14 years old. The role earned her a Young Artist Award, but it also left her feeling lonely and torn between the world of professional filmmaking and an incomplete childhood. Long shooting days, constant media attention, and the expectations of audiences pushed Penny into periods of depression. Her childhood unfolded in Chatsworth, California, where she showed her talent early, singing in one of her father's performances at just 3 years old. Growing up in a showbiz environment placed enormous pressure on Penny. She had to adapt to the spotlight, learning to smile while hiding her loneliness. Her early television roles, such as The Night Rider, 1979, and The Thorn Birds, 1983, brought her awards but also crushing mental pressure. She endured phases of depression, feeling trapped between early fame and the stolen freedom of childhood, spending many nights with only darkness and anxiety as companions. As an adult, she married producer Robert Powers in 1995, and they had one son. But the demands of work and a hectic schedule often strained the marriage, leading to a brief separation so Penny could regain her emotional balance. From a childhood lacking peace to professional and personal struggles, all of these challenges forged the resilience and strength that few people truly see in her. Today, Sidney Penny is 54 years old and lives in Wilmington, North Carolina, where she continues to act and produce. Her net worth is estimated at $2 million. Her story stands as proof that it is possible to balance career, family, and personal battles under the bright lights of Hollywood. Charles Hallahan, as McGill. At 42, Charles John Hallahan appeared in Pale Rider, 1985, as McGill, a courageous miner who dared to stand against ruthless oppression. His rugged build and resolute gaze helped him portray a simple yet powerful character, leaving a lasting impression despite it being only a supporting role. By then, he had already secured a place in Hollywood, but the undercurrents of his private life were slowly eroding his health and spirit. Charles Hallahan was born on July 29, 1943, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Outwardly, he was a hard-working actor respected by colleagues, but behind the spotlight, his life was stained by alcohol. He married twice, yet both marriages ended in bitterness and fracture. His first wife left him after 4 years of living with endless drunken nights and a volatile temper. His second wife tried to hold the family together but eventually gave up against his unbreakable drinking habit. Parties and empty bottles drained not only trust and warmth from his family, but most critically, his health. Alcohol paved the way to heart disease, a condition he once tried to ignore until it became a death sentence. Beneath the tough exterior of a broad-shouldered man was a weary soul, torn between his passion for acting and the silent demons of his private life. On November 25, 1997, Charles Hallahan died suddenly of a heart attack in Los Angeles at only 54 years old. His net worth was around $800,000, a modest figure for a lifetime of dedication to stage and screen. He was buried at Cove Harbor, Ireland, where the ocean waves continue to echo a farewell to a fated artist. For audiences, he may not have been an A-list star, but his roles as McGill in Pale Rider and Norris in The Thing remain proof that sometimes supporting characters can carve their way into memory, just like the man himself. Fran Ryan as Ma Blankenship. Fran Ryan played Ma Blankenship, the tough yet kind-hearted innkeeper in Pale Rider, 1985, at the age of 69. With her rugged appearance, raspy voice, and stern gaze, she created a small but weighty character that helped capture the resilience of Western folk facing adversity. It was also one of her last memorable appearances on the big screen after decades of quiet dedication to portraying rough but compassionate women. Fran Ryan was born on November 29, 1916, in Los Angeles, California. Her personal life, however, was marked by tragedies almost unimaginable. In 1949, she married Walter Kenneth Wayne, the man she believed would finally bring her peace after years of loneliness. But in January 1951, he was killed in a plane crash, leaving her pregnant and alone to give birth to their son just 3 months later. Fate struck again in 1953 when she found new love with Howard Schaefer. Yet the horror repeated itself. Only a few months after their wedding, he too died in a plane crash. The wreckage of the plane remained buried for 15 years before being discovered, and his body was never recovered. The double loss turned Fran's youth into a mourning journey, where happiness shattered too quickly and left wounds that would never heal. On January 15, 2000, Fran Ryan passed away in Burbank, California, at the age of 83. She left after many years of solitude, with little more than the memory of a career spanning over 50 years and a modest net worth of about $1 million. She is remembered not for wealth or fame, but for her strength in surviving unthinkable loss. Doug McGrath as Spider Conway. At 50, Doug McGrath appeared in Pale Rider, 1985, as Spider Conway, a courageous and reckless miner who was so straightforward and brave that he was willing to sacrifice himself for justice. The role may have been small, but it felt authentic. For McGrath himself had endured many hardships in real life, experiences that gave depth to his performance. It also marked the last time he collaborated with Clint Eastwood after appearing in a string of classic films together. Doug McGrath was born on April 13, 1935, in Sydney, Nova Scotia, Canada. His childhood was far from easy, as his family struggled with poverty in the difficult post-war years. He grew up in a small town where the winter cold was tied to a house without enough coal for heating and a dining table often short of food. Young Doug worked countless tough jobs to help his parents make ends meet, from carrying loads at the docks to working as a helper in a lumber mill. Those years of hardship planted in him a deep sense of inferiority, the feeling of being left behind compared to his peers. Even after becoming recognized as an actor through Goin' Down the Road, 1970, the memory of his harsh childhood haunted him, filling him with constant financial worries and a never-ending insecurity. It was a silent shadow that made his life a constant struggle against the fear of poverty. By 2025, Doug McGrath is confirmed to still be alive at the age of 90. He has chosen a simple life, far removed from Hollywood's spotlight, living quietly with an estimated net worth of just $500,000 after decades in film. His lasting image in audiences' minds is not one of riches, but of a rugged-faced artist loyal to plain, working-class characters. Perhaps the most moving detail is that he has endured, standing strong after a lifetime of wrestling with poverty. Jeffrey Weissman as Teddy Conway. At 27, Jeffrey Weissman appeared in Pale Rider, 1985, as Teddy Conway, the son of Spider, a young man whose innocence was mixed with determination to stand up for justice. Though a small role, it marked an important milestone, paving the way for his later appearances in major films, most notably in the Back to the Future series, where his name became tied to the character of George McFly in Parts 2 and 3. Jeffrey Weissman was born on October 2, 1958, in Palo Alto, California. His career path was far from smooth, for what should have been his crowning moment in Back to the Future instead became a long-lasting burden. Taking over Crispin Glover's role meant years of pressure. He was forced into heavy prosthetics to resemble someone else, filmed upside down or pushed into the background so audiences would not notice the switch. The public remembered the character, but almost forgot his real name. Behind the lights, Weissman endured whispers that he was merely a stand-in, a substitute rather than a true actor. The constant denial of his talent and identity left deep psychological scars, turning fame into a heavy weight rather than a joy. Today, at 67, Jeffrey Weissman has chosen to step away from the race for stardom, devoting himself to teaching acting and nurturing family life with his wife and 2 sons. His net worth is estimated at just about $1 million, a modest sum considering the iconic films he once took part in. But perhaps the most touching detail is that he no longer chases lost glory. Instead, He spends his later years passing on his experience to younger generations, a way of healing from the pain of being overlooked and proving that even in the shadows, he found light of his own. Billy Drago as Deputy Mather. Billy Drago appeared in Pale Rider, 1985, at the age of 40 as Deputy Mather, a shady and weak-willed deputy. Though only a supporting role, Drago instilled unease in audiences with his piercing eyes and gaunt face, features that would later become his trademark, ensuring he was often cast as terrifying villains. His appearance in Clint Eastwood's film opened the door to larger projects, most famously his role as the hitman Frank Nitti in The Untouchables, 1987, which brought him worldwide recognition. Billy Drago was born on November 30th, 1945, in Hugoton, Kansas. His youth was a difficult journey, marked by poverty and alienation throughout his early years. He tried journalism, then worked as a radio announcer to make ends meet before finally finding his escape in acting. But once in Hollywood, Drago faced other shadows. The pressure of being typecast as villains, combined with the chaos of backstage life, pulled him into substance abuse. Arrests for drug possession disrupted his career and eroded his soul, making the cold stare on screen a reflection of the turmoil in his real life. His marriage to actress Silvana Gallardo was once seen as a haven, but when she died in 2012, Drago fell into deep depression and endured prolonged loneliness until his final days. On June 24, 2019, Billy Drago passed away in Los Angeles from complications of a stroke at the age of 73. His net worth was estimated at just $1.5 million, a small amount compared to a career spanning decades. Yet he was comforted by the legacy he left behind. Unforgettable villains, from Frank Nitti in The Untouchables to the demon Barbas in Charmed, roles that made audiences both fearful and fascinated. And after all the tragedies, losses, and battles for survival, the cast of Pale Rider, 1985, left us with deeply mixed emotions, glory entwined with pain. 40 years have passed, and they still live in the memory of audiences. Do you believe their cruel fates are part of a curse bound to this legendary film? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so we can continue to uncover more heartbreaking stories hidden behind Hollywood's bright lights.